Imagine spending your entire life saving for a single moment. The day you finally hand over $1 million for your forever home. It's an idyllic, six-bedroom mansion in Westfield, New Jersey. A town so safe it feels like a movie set. But 3 days after closing, before you've even unpacked a single box, you open the mailbox and find a white envelope. Inside is a letter that will destroy your life. It doesn't ask for money. It doesn't threaten a break-in. Instead, it says, 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades. I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. This is the true story of the Watcher. A case so chilling it proves that the most dangerous place in America isn't a dark alleyway. It's your own front porch. The year was 2014, and Derek and Maria Broaddus felt like they had won the lottery. They were a successful couple with 3 young children, and 657 Boulevard was their trophy. It was a grand, century-old home with deep porches and a sense of history. But as they began minor renovations, the letters started arriving with terrifying regularity. The writer didn't just know they had moved in. The writer was observing their every move. The second letter was even more specific, naming their children by their nicknames and in the order of their birth. The Watcher wrote, I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy what should be. You have made it a sad move. You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. Do they know I am watching? I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. The phrase, young blood, sent a shiver through the Broaddus family that never truly left. The police were called immediately, but they were baffled. There were no footprints, no DNA on the envelopes initially, and no clear motive. The letters were postmarked from Newark, a major mail hub, making them impossible to trace to a specific neighborhood mailbox. But the psychological warfare was just beginning. The Watcher began mocking the family's attempts at security. He knew which contractors were in which rooms. He knew that Derek had been painting in the back of the house. He asked if the children were afraid to go into the basement or the attic alone, noting that he could see them through the windows. The investigation quickly turned Westfield, a town famous for its quiet luxury, into a place of deep suspicion. Detectives looked at the neighbors. To the left lived the Langfords. The matriarch was in her 90s, and her adult children lived with her. One son, Michael, was described as a bit of a recluse, the kind of Boo Radley figure you see in Southern Gothic novels. The police brought him in for questioning, but they had nothing to connect him to the letters. Then there was the gamer theory. One night, a neighbor spotted a car idling in front of the house. The person inside was playing a dark, violent video game. Was he the Watcher? Again, the lead went cold. Desperate, the Broadduses hired private investigators, former FBI profilers, and even a forensic linguist. They spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to unmask their stalker. The linguist noted that the letters used old-fashioned phrasing, like toss and turn and second coming, suggesting the writer might be older. But then came the DNA. Forensic technicians found a trace of DNA on one of the envelopes. The shock. It belonged to a woman. This threw the entire investigation into a tailspin. Was it a jealous neighbor? A former owner who couldn't let go? Or was it someone living in plain sight, watching the police tape from their own living room? As months turned into a year, the Broaddus family reached a breaking point. They couldn't move in. Every time they stepped onto the property, they felt eyes on the back of their necks. They tried to sell the house, but news of the Watcher had gone viral. 657 Boulevard was now the most famous, haunted house in America, even though the ghost was made of flesh and blood. When they couldn't sell, they tried to tear the house down and split the lot. That's when the town turned on them. The people of Westfield didn't want the property value to drop. They didn't want the drama. At a town hall meeting, their neighbors, the people they thought would protect them, voted against their plan. This is where the story takes its darkest turn. With no other suspects and a town that hated them, a conspiracy theory began to grow. What if the Broadduses were the Watchers? Some neighbors claimed the family had buyer's remorse because they realized they couldn't afford the mortgage. and they were sending the letters to themselves to sue the previous owners for not disclosing the stalker. It was a theory that ignored the sheer terror the family was experiencing, but it was a theory the town leaned into because it was easier than admitting a predator was living among them. The Broaddus family eventually rented the house out to a brave tenant who didn't care about the letters. On the day the tenant moved in, a new letter arrived. This one was more violent than the others. It spoke of accidents, of fires, and of the death of 657. It seemed the Watcher was furious that he had won. Eventually, in 2019, the family finally found a buyer. They sold the house for $959,000, a loss of over $400,000 when accounting for the purchase price, and the years of taxes and private investigators. To this day, 657 Boulevard stands as a silent monument to an unsolved mystery. The DNA has never been matched. No one has ever been charged. The new owners haven't reported any letters, but the mystery of who spent years meticulously documenting the lives of a family they didn't know remains one of the most disturbing chapters in American suburban history. The Watcher was never a ghost. He or she was a neighbor, someone who walked the same sidewalks, shopped at the same grocery stores, and smiled at the children they called young blood. The story reminds us of a terrifying truth. You can lock your doors and windows, but you can never truly lock out someone who is already watching from the outside.